Yeah, fool. Peace. He greets his father.
It's your boy Crypto Blood. What's going on, people? Welcome to another episode of Mine Two Satoshis. And before we even get started, I just got to throw a shout out to Quincy Alonzo for the song request, Scarface. He asked for some Scarface, so I threw on some classic Scarface. I seen a man die. Man, that takes me back to the 90s for sure. Hope you guys are doing well today. Also, I hope you can tell I've got a crisper look now. Hopefully you can see that. I'm still tweaking the camera, but I got a new setup for the camera. I got a Canon DSLR, and I'm still tweaking it, but I'm always looking to improve the quality of content that I provide. So this is one step further, and hopefully it looks a little bit better. And I wish I had this when I was down in Miami. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about today the mystery coin. There's some new news from Clif's mystery coin that he came out a few months ago and said it was Tezos. So there's some more drama with Tezos that I want to cover. But also I want to look at this pop in the markets and go over some basics regarding, some people were saying they think that Bitcoin's price is really correlated heavily with the CME futures. And I just want to kind of go over that because if you understand how the futures contracts are constructed, the CME ones in particular, then you understand why it's not manipulated, and if it is manipulated, it'll actually be manipulated to the upside. It's a bullish move for Bitcoin, and I'll explain why in a second here. So let's take a look at coin market cap. We are currently at 542 billion. Bitcoin's dominance is sitting at 34.8%, and we do have a slight bounce back here today. Definitely a bounce back. Most of the coins and tokens are in the green. But let's take a look at the charts to see what's going on. As you can see, I said this the other day, and I had this line already drawn. For all you people out there that think I'm just scrabbling on a chart, I had a conversation with a guy that was saying that all I see are lines drawn. Well, you evidently don't watch my channel or watch my technical analysis. But it bounced directly off of the Fibonacci extension line that I drew a month and a half or so ago. So this green line though is where I was thinking we would hit a double bottom. And this is on the hour chart, guys. So just keep that in mind. And it looks like that may be the case. We double bottom there. We will just have to see a close above this last trend line here. Right here, this trend line. So if we can see a close above here, which at this point, if we project out on the hour chart, I would say roughly anywhere above 11,800, you can safely say. We start to see a close above that, then I will say this is a bullish move. If not, we need to wait a little bit longer to see what happens here. But what I wanted to talk to you guys about was even before we get into the Tezos thing. Actually, before I do that, I'm just seeing a trend, an update I should draw here. So I'm going to draw this. As you can see, we broke above that right there as well. So again, just need to see a close above 11,800. And I'll be more bullish on where we are in the markets for Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies in general. However, again, what I want to talk to you guys about is this idea that's been floating around that the future CME futures have been holding or manipulating the price of Bitcoin down. I was talking to Nick from Truth Bliss about this last night. That was, yeah, I know, and I know he put out a video about this late last night, but I was telling him I don't necessarily agree that the CME futures are actually manipulating the price down, and there are a few technical reasons why, and I was trying to explain to him. But before I even get into that, you got to understand there's a fallacy in trading, and not even just trading, but just in life period, that people confuse correlation with causation. Just because something correlates does not mean that thing is caused, that element is caused by is causing that reaction, or I don't know what you want to call it. But essentially, if let's say we have a stock, right? A stock, it shoots up, and it just so happens that some news that comes out that I don't know, they got a new CEO. Okay, and that happens many times in equities. When a CEO leaves, the price of the stock will go up if the market's sentiment about that CEO is negative. But what you have to understand is it could have gone up. That doesn't, just because the CEO left and the stock price shot up, doesn't necessarily mean, now it could mean that, but you have to look at many things at one time, many elements, to come to an assumption that that was caused directly and solely because of the CEO leaving. It could have been just a happenstance that some hedge fund decided to do their buy order for that particular stock that same day. So you never want to just assume that because of correlation, you see two events happen at the same time, it's the cause of that price move, or one event, I should say. It's probably, in many times, more than one event that causes this. So just keep that in mind. Not that causation correlation fallacy. You just got to keep that in check, and remember to look at all things and go do more research to figure out what is causing it. Now, in terms of, with Bitcoin, price of Bitcoin being slammed from 20,000 down to where we are now, roughly 11,000 and some change, almost 12. Yeah, we're at 11,000 right now. First, it's normal. This is not, anything out of the ordinary that I've seen in the last 5 years in Bitcoin. This happens. I've seen 60, 70%, 80% moves down. But what I really want to do is to dismiss this whole thing about Bitcoin being manipulated by CME futures. What I really want to say or explain to you guys is, one, this is how the CME futures work. So I'm gonna set the context so you understand it a little bit better. If you don't, if you do, just bear with me, please. So essentially, this is how it works. So the CME contracts are actually 5 Bitcoins per contract. This is normal. This is how, if you buy a contract of crude oil, it's 100 barrels of, I believe, 100 barrels of crude oil that you're purchasing, that one contract represents. So you've got 5 Bitcoins per contract, okay? The second thing you want to realize, and most of you know this, and this is one of my concerns, or where I was confused about these futures when I started covering them last year, was that the contracts are actually settled in cash. So CME never has to have any Bitcoin to honor um, the contracts, you know. So you have to remember that helps, or really that eliminates even the need for them to go and get Bitcoin. Now you say, well, that helps in someone's argument to say that they can manipulate even easier because they don't have to actually go get the Bitcoin. Well, the thing is, with these contracts, you have to actually, to short Bitcoin, you need to put up 5 times margin. What does that mean? That means essentially that means margin on to do a Bitcoin contract takes 5 Bitcoin, right? Well, how much is that? Roughly 50,000, 55 grand, right? Well, that's one contract. So times that by 5. That's how much margin you need to short one contract of Bitcoin in the CME futures. Okay. So essentially, you're talking about over a quarter million in margin you need just to short one Bitcoin contract. So really, it's making it very it's not making it worth your while shorting Bitcoin and manipulating it down. It really is setting up really to be a bullish move for Bitcoin, these CME contracts at the moment. So you got to keep that in mind. It takes a whole bunch of margin to even short one Bitcoin. Not saying that the big guys don't have that. It's just that I mean, you know, we know they kind of have unlimited money, but they don't. They can borrow money cheaply, very cheaply, near zero. But they still have, you know, some upper bound limits on how much they can dump into a specific asset or a futures contract. So the other thing that you guys want to keep in mind is that in order, you can do, I was explaining this to Nick too, you know, there's a thing called cash and carry. So with cash and carry, you essentially will short, you can make money. It's almost like how we have with the carry trade in the yen dollar, where people will go borrow yen, and then because yen, you can borrow yen at almost zero interest, and then they will go out and purchase stocks, bonds, the other, you know, doing other things. So it's almost that with Bitcoin. You can cash and carry, meaning you can short, because normally these contracts have a premium of, let's say, 5-10%, and you can basically short the Bitcoin contract at a premium. It's, you know, like I said, 5-10% or whatnot, and then go out and buy spot. Go and spot and buy Bitcoin outright, and then you make the difference, the 10% spread, once the contract closes, once it expires at the end of the contract. I think it expires every month, the last Friday of every month. That's why we have one coming up this Friday, I believe, the 26th, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here. Yeah, the 26th. But again, I'm not seeing, you know, that you can make 10% on that, but I don't know, personally think it's going to have a total 100% correlation and reason behind the pop that we're seeing. I think the pop right now is just technicals. We hit a double bottom. That's a, you know, an area, and you know, if we go back and look at the green line, double bottom there. And this, you know, the contracts don't expire until Friday. And this happened last night. Not last night, maybe about 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago. I'm looking at the hour chart. I keep forgetting. So I don't think that has any correlation with the options expiring. Now, will the options expiring push us above our technical area, which will signal to the markets this is a fully bullish move? Possibly. So that's what I mean by, you know, normally there's a number of things that come together to cause markets to move. Normally not just one thing. Sometimes there is one thing that will do that, and we saw that with China. You know, that news, that was definitely one thing that we can say with a good amount of certainty that caused the market to pull back. But then after that, there was other news that came out that was more bearish news, and that continued the extension down. It didn't have anything to do with CME manipulating Bitcoin, in my opinion. So that's just my 2 Satoshis on that part. I know I rambled on. I just wanted to kind of cover that because I know the options are expiring at the end of this week. I just don't feel like that is the sole reason for this pop. It is more so technical, and you know, the expiration will possibly help aid in the technicals signaling a bullish move up for Bitcoin from here. So let's just keep an eye on that. Let's go ahead and look at the article, and that is out of Bitcoin.com. And man, for those that don't know, Clif came out late last year, and said he is confident enough to say that Tezos was the mystery coin that would cause people to make a lot of money. He gave 2 scenarios. First scenario is that Tezos, you know, after all the legal issues and everything, would end up still rolling out with their ICO or their token, and the people who were kind of in limbo would then see a big windfall from that. I don't think that's so. The second scenario, let me just say a second scenario. The second scenario is that they go through this legal battle for years and years or whatnot, and then at the end of the legal battle, Tezos Foundation is forced to refund all participants in the original denomination or original currency, cryptocurrency, which was ETH. So at that point, your ETH basically would have had you holding ETH for 2 years or 3 years or however long the legal battle would have taken. You would see a windfall because at that point ETH would be at X amount of thousands of dollars. So that could be the scenario, which is the scenario I think will happen. So let's take a look at this article though. Tezos, last year's most notorious ICO, is back in the news, and once again it's for all the wrong reasons. The blockchain project, with its promise of decentralizing governance, was hailed as a paragon of success after raising $232 million in 2017. Then things turned ugly and have stayed that way ever since. In addition to facing 2 lawsuits, Tezos is riddled with infighting at the highest level. This week, the foundation's president, John Gevers, was accused of operating a dictatorship as the acrimony intensified. When blockchain goes wrong, it says here, for investors who contributed to the Tezos July crowd sale, the ensuing 6 months have been agonizing and expensive. Bitcoin traded for $2,000 back then, and Ethereum went for a little over $200. Had things played out differently, many investors would have flipped their tokens long ago once the platform went live. Yeah, that's true. But again, like I said, that's like If Clif's second scenario is correct, then if you purchase at $200 ETH, and let's say in 2 years you get your money back in ETH, well, the same amount of ETH you get back in 2-3 years, and let's say ETH is at $20,000, then there you have it. His data points on that scenario would definitely ring true for a windfall. So it says here that on Tuesday, Johan Gevers, the Tezos Foundation president, outlined his vision for relaunching the project with an all-Swiss team at the top. In the weeks prior, Gevers had received a number of applications to help lead the new look Tezos Foundation, and supporters were confident that these appointments would add the much needed leadership and impetus for progress to finally be made. Their hopes were dashed, though, after Gevers unilaterally vetoed all the applicants, as an email from the foundation, Diego's Pons, to the candidates revealed. So I don't want to read the entire article, but I do want to point out a tweet from Storecoin's CEO Chris McCoy, and he says here, this Gevers character came across as a sociopath dictator extraordinaire. His speech was some weird shit. I'm now unsure how this plays for Tezos, the blockchain protocol. Very unfortunate. So that was one person's viewpoint on Gevers' latest rant and email. So it also goes on to say here that the soap opera that is Tezos has been popcorn for cryptocurrency observers, but for those still waiting for the new digital commonwealth to appear, the debacle has been worrisome. Regardless of Johan Gevers' business acumen, he seems to have a knack for making enemies. Over the past 3 months, he somehow managed to alienate the Brightmans, his foundation colleagues, the Tezos community, executive applicants, and numerous crypto luminaries who have been watching the situation with distaste. Wow, one small ray of light for Tezos supporters. The project GitHub has at least been busy. The ship is almost constructed. Now all it needs is a crew capable of sailing it. So yeah, this guy Gevers is on a rant. He's going crazy again. Let's just see what happens with this. I'm thinking that the second scenario that Clif spelled out for us is going to be the one that comes to fruition, but we'll have to see. Let me know your thoughts. Did you guys participate in Tezos? Are you still waiting and holding on to those tokens? I know, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think you can trade them still. They are they're IOUs being traded on BTC. Let me know if I'm wrong about that. I think that's the case still. But that's pretty much it for today. Make sure you guys like and subscribe and click that bell for sure if you do subscribe. Join me in the Webbot room as well. I'll leave a link to that in the description of this video. And oh, I always forget, make sure you guys jump over to the Block Party podcast channel and become a subscriber there as well. That is where Nick and I from Truth Blitz will be doing our bi-weekly podcast. So make sure you stay tuned and we'll bring the good content to you. It's your boy Crypto Blood. I'm loving this Scarface. I'm out. Holla.